A stranger paid for my coffee 7 years ago during the worst day of my life. I finally found her last month. She doesn't remember me at all. The woman in front of me at the cafe was having trouble with her card. Declined. She searched her purse frantically, a small child tugging at her hand. I'm so sorry, she kept saying. I don't know what's wrong. I have money. I don't understand. The barista looked impatient. The line grew behind us. I stepped forward. I'll cover hers. And a chocolate milk for the little one. The woman turned to thank me, and I recognized her immediately. Same eyes, same gentle presence. 7 years older, but unmistakably the person who'd bought me a lavender latte during the worst morning of my life. The morning my mother died. The morning my mother died, I went to get coffee. Not because I wanted coffee, because I couldn't sit in that hospital room anymore, watching machines measure the absence of everything she'd been. She'd been sick for 2 years. Pancreatic cancer, the kind that gives you enough time to hope and not enough time to prepare. I'd been at her bedside for 3 days straight when the monitors started making different sounds. When the nurse, whose name I'd never learned, despite seeing her every day for a week, came in with that gentle expression that meant what was coming next was something no one could fix. Dr. Patricia Chen, her oncologist, 18 years of practice, had warned us this was close, had told us to say our goodbyes, had been kind in ways I'll never forget and clinical in ways I'll never fault. But when the moment came, when my mother's hand went still in mine and the machines stopped their rhythms, I couldn't stay. I walked out of the hospital at 6:47 a.m. The city was waking up around me. Normal people starting normal days. Cars honking, birds singing, the world utterly indifferent to the fact that mine had just ended. The cafe was 3 blocks away, one of those artisan places with exposed brick and hand-chalked menu boards. I don't know why I went there. I couldn't have told you what I usually ordered if someone had put a gun to my head. I stood in line crying silently, tears just streaming down my face. No sound, no drama, just a complete stranger having a complete breakdown over a menu board while people around me pretended not to notice. When I reached the counter, nothing came out. I opened my mouth to order and found only emptiness. The barista, a young man with gauges and a practiced patience, waited. Take your time, he said kindly, but I couldn't take time, couldn't find words, couldn't do anything except stand there leaking grief onto the floor of a coffee shop while my mother lay dead 3 blocks away. The woman behind me stepped forward. I didn't see her clearly. Everything was blurry with tears, just a shape, a presence. She'll have a large lavender latte, she told the cashier, and whatever pastry looks best this morning. She handed over her card, turned to look at me. My mom loved lavender lattes, she said. Her voice was warm, steady. Said they tasted like someone cared enough to make something beautiful. I couldn't respond, just nodded. She squeezed my shoulder. Whatever it is, you'll survive it, even when you don't think you can. Then she was gone. I never even saw her face clearly through the tears. That lavender latte became a ritual. Every year on the anniversary of my mother's death, I'd order one, sit alone somewhere quiet, think about mom, think about the stranger. The drink became a prayer, a remembrance, a way to honor both the person I'd lost and the person who'd caught me when I was falling. I told the story often, at grief support groups, during difficult conversations about loss. Anytime someone asked how I'd survived those first impossible days. A stranger bought me a lavender latte and told me I'd survive. I didn't believe her, but I held on to those words like a lifeline. The group facilitator, a grief counselor named Dr. Rebecca Martinez, 15 years specializing in bereavement, said it was one of the most powerful stories of unexpected kindness she'd heard. Moments like that can anchor us, she said. Give us something to cling to when everything else is chaos. I'd built a whole mythology around this woman, this angel who'd appeared in my darkest hour, this stranger who'd somehow known exactly what to say. I'd imagined finding her 1,000 times, thanking her properly, telling her what her kindness had meant. 7 years later, I moved across the country. New city, new job, new apartment in a neighborhood I'd never visited before. I was 38 now. My grief had softened into something manageable. I could think about mom without crying most days, could remember the good years instead of just the ending. But I still ordered a lavender latte every October 14th, still thought about the stranger, still wondered who she was. The cafe near my apartment was called Morning Light, cozy, unpretentious, the kind of neighborhood spot where regulars knew each other's names and dogs were welcome. I walked in on a random Tuesday, not the anniversary, just wanting coffee. That's when I saw her. I'll cover hers, I said, stepping forward, and a chocolate milk for the little one. The woman turned to thank me. Same eyes. The recognition hit me like a physical force. My hands started shaking. My heart pounded against my ribs. 7 years older. Her hair was different, shorter now, touched with gray at the temples, but the gentle presence was unmistakable. The warm, steady energy I remembered from the worst morning of my life. Thank you so much, she said. I'll pay you back. My card never does this. You already paid me back. She tilted her head, confused. 7 years ago. Different city. A cafe 3 blocks from a hospital. Nothing. No recognition in her eyes. My mother had just died. I was crying at the counter. You bought me a lavender latte and told me I'd survive. She stared at me, searching her memory, trying to replace me. I'm sorry, she said finally. I don't remember. She genuinely didn't. The moment that had defined my grief journey, that had become a story I told at support groups, a ritual I performed every October, a foundational memory I'd built 7 years of healing around, was just a passing kindness she'd forgotten entirely. For a moment, I felt deflated. This reunion was supposed to mean something. I'd imagined finding this woman and having some profound moment of connection, some movie scene where we both cried and hugged and she said she'd wondered about me too. Instead, she was looking at me with polite confusion, her daughter tugging her hand, probably wondering if I was some kind of stalker. I'm sorry, she said again. I honestly don't. There have been a lot of coffee shops over the years. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Not yet. Something in me was still processing. And then I understood. She didn't remember because kindness was just how she lived. Not a special occasion. Not a story worth preserving. Just an automatic response to someone in pain. She'd probably bought coffee for dozens of crying strangers, given comfort to hundreds of struggling people, never tracking the impact, never needing acknowledgement. The moment that had changed my life was, to her, just Tuesday. Just another person who needed help. Just another small kindness offered and forgotten. That's actually better, I said. She looked confused. That you don't remember. It means you're like this all the time, not just once. Her name was Margaret. We exchanged phone numbers. Her daughter, Emily, age 4, was getting impatient, so we agreed to have coffee properly sometime. I really am sorry I don't remember, she said as she was leaving. 7 years is a long time. Please don't apologize. You saved my life. You don't need to remember that you did. She smiled, uncomfortable with the weight of the statement. I'm sure that's overstating it. It's really not. We met for coffee a week later. Emily was with her grandmother, Margaret's mother, who lived nearby and helped with childcare. We had 2 hours. I told her everything. About my mom, about the diagnosis, the 2 years of treatment, the final decline, about standing at the counter that morning, unable to speak, unable to function, unable to do anything except leak grief onto the floor of a coffee shop. You stepped forward and ordered for me. Lavender latte. You said your mom loved them. Margaret's eyes widened slightly. I did say that. My mom, she passed 3 years ago. She really did love lavender lattes. I've ordered one every year since then. On the anniversary, it became my way of remembering her, remembering both of them. Both of them. My mom and you, the 2 people who got me through that morning. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. I wish I could remember, she said finally. It sounds like it meant something. It meant everything. But that's the point, I think. You didn't need to remember. You just needed to do it. Margaret told me about her life. She was a hospice nurse, had been for 12 years, spent her days with people in their final moments, helping them transition peacefully, supporting their families through the impossible. It's hard work, she said, but someone needs to do it. Someone needs to make the endings gentler. Of course she was a hospice nurse. Of course the woman who'd shown me kindness in my grief spent her entire career surrounded by grief. That's why you don't remember, I said, because you do this all the time. It's not special to you. It's just what you do. I don't think about it that way. I just help when I can. My mom taught me that we're supposed to take care of each other. Nothing special about it. It is special. The fact that you don't think it's special makes it more special. She laughed. You're very intense about this. 7 years of building you into a mythology will do that. We've met 3 times since that first coffee. Margaret and I are becoming friends. Real friends, not just the stranger hero I'd built in my mind. She's funny, warm, exhausted most of the time because hospice work is brutal, and she's raising a 4-year-old alone after her husband left 2 years ago. She's also human, imperfect, gets frustrated in traffic, stress eats chocolate when work is hard, cries sometimes when she loses a patient she'd grown close to. The angel in my memory was a projection, a symbol I'd created to cope with my grief. The real Margaret is better, more real, more complex, more worthy of admiration because she's kind not through some divine grace, but through deliberate choice every single day, even when it's hard. I asked her once what she remembered about that period. 2017? My mom had just been diagnosed, first stage. We thought she had time. She paused. I was spending a lot of time in hospitals, coffee shops near hospitals, waiting rooms. You were going through your own thing. Everyone's going through something. That's the point. You never know what someone's carrying, so you try to be kind, just in case. My grief counselor, I still see Dr. Martinez once a month even after all these years, asked about Margaret. How does it feel to have found her? Different than I expected. How so? I thought it would be this big moment, closure. Like the end of a story, but it's not an ending. It's a beginning of a friendship, of understanding something important about how kindness actually works. And how does kindness work? Not remembered, just repeated. I've been trying to be like Margaret. The automatic response to pain, the kindness offered without tracking, without needing acknowledgement, without building stories around my own generosity, coffee for the crying stranger, patience for the overwhelmed parent, a few extra dollars for the person whose card was declined. Small things, forgettable things, things that might mean everything to someone and nothing to me. That's the lesson Margaret taught me without knowing she was teaching it. That kindness isn't about grand gestures or heroic moments. It's about showing up again and again for the strangers around you. It's about being the person someone might remember for 7 years, even if you never remember remember them at all. Last month, I was at Morning Light, our cafe now, mine and Margaret's, when I noticed a young woman crying at the counter. She was maybe 23, thin, tired, the kind of exhausted that goes bone deep. The barista was being patient, but the woman couldn't seem to find words, just stood there, tears streaming, money in her hand, unable to complete the simple transaction of ordering coffee. I stepped forward. She'll have a lavender latte, and whatever pastry looks best this morning. The young woman turned to look at me. Thank you, she managed. You don't have to. I know, but someone did this for me once, during the worst day of my life. I've been waiting for a chance to pass it on. She nodded, couldn't speak. I squeezed her shoulder. Whatever it is, you'll survive it, even when you don't think you can. I didn't ask her name, didn't stick around to see if she was okay, just paid and walked away. Maybe she'll remember that moment forever. Maybe she'll forget it by tomorrow. Either way, the kindness exists. Either way, it ripples forward. Margaret texted me that evening. Emily says you're her favorite of mommy's friends because you bought her chocolate milk. I smiled. Tell her she's my favorite of your kids because she's the only one I've met. She's the only one I've got. Then the ranking stands. 7 years ago, a stranger paid for my coffee during the worst day of my life. She doesn't remember me at all. And that's exactly how it should be. Because kindness isn't about being remembered. It's about being repeated, over and over, stranger to stranger, until the world is a little bit gentler than it was before. My mom would have loved Margaret, would have loved the lavender lattes, would have loved knowing that a stranger's small kindness carried her daughter through grief. Sometimes I think mom sent her. Sometimes I think the universe just works that way, putting the right people in the right places at the right moments. Mostly I think it doesn't matter. What matters is that Margaret was there. What matters is that I'm still here. What matters is that somewhere, right now, someone is crying at a coffee counter. And if I'm lucky enough to be behind them in line, I know exactly what to do. A stranger taught me what survival looks like. She doesn't remember the lesson, but I carry it forward anyway. That's how kindness actually works. Not remembered, just repeated, forever.